Okay, Marcus here. When we look at the month of November, we see a lot of different things taking place. We see the Paris attacks. We see Nigeria situation with Boko Haram, the situation in Mali. I think it's 270 hostages taking place. When we look at all of these things, we see that, um, and we know that these are a warning from the Lord to let us know something. And so we want to get into the Word to see exactly what it is that the Lord is trying to tell us.
Then I saw another angel flying in mid-air, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. He said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water."
Now, when we look at Revelation chapter 14, it lets us know at the time that the Lord bring forth his judgments on the earth, that the angel came and commanded that people would worship and fear the Lord. And that is what's going to keep you from the judgment that the Lord bring forth. But what man does, he poses his judgments, and what Satan is man and Satan the same. He bringeth forth his judgments, and then he says for you to fear him. So when we look at these situations that are arising with all of these militant groups and all of that, it's saying that, hey, if you don't comply with the government, then these judgments is going to come upon you. So these are how these articles are coming in right now. So if you read here, it says you want to be free and dead. U.S. candidates weigh in on freedom versus security over Muslims. So it's to bring forth this form of fear. And this is the same thing with 9/11. It doesn't take much. The information is out there. If you research, if you want to know the truth, the information is there. You bring forth this form of fear, and then you can pass laws to bring in bring man unto subjection unto the higher powers. And what the Lord is saying with the angel, when he sent forth his angel to enlighten the world, he's saying that you need to fear him. Now, you got a choice of what you need to do, and what the Lord is going to show here is what happened to people who make the wrong choices. And we're going to find out that a lot of these people are so-called, Christians, or so-called knowing the Lord, but in the end, they seeking safety under man's system. And this is why the Lord had to send his angel to enlighten the people of God and to warn the world that you need to fear God, because what man's have to offer, you're going to see what's going to happen in the end.
After this I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling for demons, and a haunt for every impure spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes."
Okay, when you look at these militant groups, you don't have to go too far and study too hard to find out where they get their equipment and money and funding from. Uh, we understand that, even through the CIA and through all these central intelligence agencies that are in Europe, that's in with the Vatican, always have been funders for these type of militant groups, because what they do, they bring forth their judgment. But what we have to do is not turn a deaf ear to this and give uh, the Bible and the Lord the fear that He wants. Because if you don't, then His judgments will come upon you. So, what people have to do is make a decision who they're going to fear. Are you going to fear man, or are you going to fear the word of the God? Because what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to look at some things in history about how this stuff turned out. And you're going to find out that the source of this power always have been here from the beginning. And we're going to take a look at this some more. So when we look at Revelation chapter 18, it lets us know that that you got to come out of Babylon. If you don't, you're going to be a partaker of our sins. So here's a lot of the problem that Christians run into, because what people don't want to realize is that they in a Babylonian system, and your conscience is going to automatically reveal this, because man didn't bring this. The Spirit of God came. It says here that the angel came and enlightened people. So what you're going to find out is that it's not about what you think. It's about what's been revealed into your heart. And some people that say they love the Lord, and we got people that go to church every day, and we listen to preachers talk and all of this, and the Bible said that they flatter the Lord with their mouths, and because they saying, well, this nation is a nation of God. This nation here, the Lord is not going to destroy all His people, and when they say these things, they're right to a point. And we're going to look at it even further as we go on.
On your clothes is found the life-blood of the innocent poor, though you did not catch them breaking in. Yet in spite of all this you say, I am innocent. He is not angry with me. But I will pass judgment on you because you say, I have not sinned.
And see, what Jeremiah chapter 2 lets us know is that we become arrogant in our own thinking. And the Bible said that blood of the poor is on you. When you see that wars is going on in other countries, and you didn't really see them doing what they've been accused of doing, so we go along with it. And at the same time, to clear our conscience, we crowd up in the churches and allow the preacher to tell us that we're going to be saved and that we are free from sin. And Jeremiah lets us know that what the Lord was telling Jeremiah was that you're not free. And by you taking what people say and clearing your conscience because you're crowding up in a church, it doesn't free you from the sin. And once blood is being shed, the land is guilty. And we're going to look at this.
Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land. An atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of the one who shed it.
Now, when we look at Numbers 35, we clearly see that the Lord was trying to tell Israel, when you go into the promised land, the land that I give you, He said, make sure you do not pollute the land. He said, bloodshed pollutes the land, and it cannot be atoned for except by the blood of the one who shed it. So we're gonna see further that this wasn't just given to Israel. When you shed innocent blood, you pollute the land. And when you're as a Christian and you want to take back America and all of this, America is guilty of bloodshed. And when you do that, the land becomes polluted. That means the Lord have to step in and send forth judgment against the land to atone for the blood, for the innocent blood that's being shed. So we have to look at this and understand this, that because we begin to compromise with ourselves and deceive ourselves and flatter the Lord with our mouths, because down in our heart we want to live in the convenience of Babylon, and we are fearful of giving up that convenience. But the Lord is trying to let us know that you got to separate yourself, because the land is guilty of bloodshed, and the bloodshed is what polluted the land and make it a detestable presence in the eyesight of the Lord. So when we look at these warnings, we got to take it seriously, because the Lord definitely is taking it seriously, and He's saying that all atonement and judgment is done by God. God said, "I got to judge, and I do not have any respect of persons."
For this is what the sovereign Lord says: How much worse will it be when I send against Jerusalem my 4 dreadful judgments, sword and famine, and wild beasts and plague, to kill its men and their animals. Yet there will be some survivors, sons and daughters, who will be brought out of it.
Now, as we read Ezekiel 14, it lets us know what the Lord's judgment are. His judgments: sword, famine, wild beast, and plague. This is what He sent on the land that don't obey Him. This is His judgments. So, like I say, man has his form of judgment by bringing in groups and militant groups to force people into servitude. But the Lord said, "Fear me, because when I bring forth my judgments, it will devastate the land." Now, the problem is this: nobody really believed it. When you look at, America and the people in America, nobody really believed this. And that's why, when the Lord said, "Come out of her, my people," that is the reason why most people can't leave, because in their heart, they don't believe it. And what they see with their eyes is how they judge things. So if, I'll take myself as an example, when you read, "A Babylon is fallen, come out of her, my people." So, the people that I talk to, and I have to use African Americans as an example. The people I talk to, they say, "Well, where you go?" So when you read in Isaiah chapter 50, it says, when you come out of Babylon, go back to the land of your forefathers. So I took a trip back to the land of my forefathers in Africa, and got information about how things looked, things was, and the surroundings. Well, people, they don't really believe you, and that's the situation, because it's not so much about how the situation really is. It's about staying in the comfort of your own domain that you have now. So when I come back, of course, people do different types of research themselves to support what it is that they want to do. So they would come to me and say, "Well, Africa, you got all those Boko Harams there." And not understanding that the Lord said, I'm going to send a sword to you that's bigger than Boko Haram. And, people say, well, there's AIDS over there. But they're not understanding that the word of the Lord said, well, the plague of my judgment is going to be worse. And some people come to me and say, oh, no, I never go over there because they got lions over there and everything else. Now, they're not understanding the judgment of the Lord when he said, I'm going to send your wild beast among you, and they will devour you. So these are actual excuses that people give me on an everyday basis. They say, well, Babylon is everywhere. So what's going on when this happened is that you're dealing with the desires of the luxury of Babylon. Nobody want to separate themselves from it. So therefore, it goes back to what I had talked about beforehand when people say, well, the Lord is not going to destroy all his people. Well, let's just see what exactly is going to happen to his people.
See, the former things have taken place, and new things I declare. Before they spring into being, I announce them to you.
Okay, so the first thing in Isaiah 42 is that the promise of the Lord to his people is that he announced these things before it happened. And that's the promise that the Lord made to his people. So he said, the new things that I declare, I'm going to announce them to you. And he's going to announce it, through preachers, through divine revelations, through dreams, and all different sorts. And he wants to prepare you for the things that's about to happen.
Therefore I cut you in pieces with my prophets. I killed you with the words of my mouth. Then my judgments go forth like the sun.
And see, as we read in Hosea chapter 6, the next thing is the Lord sent his prophets. He said to cut you in pieces and to kill you with the words of his mouth. Now, this is the part that's, it's really hard for some people. And this is the reason why, T.D. Jakes or Joel Osteen is not going to tell you the truth. Because your comfort depends on their success. But, a true person of the Lord is a nobody. A person who don't have money or don't want money from you, and a person that's not your friend in a way to make you comfortable. This is the person that's going to tell you the truth. Because if you don't heed the word of the Lord, then the Bible says the word is gonna kill you. It's gonna destroy you. Now, as we read in Hosea chapter 6, verse 5, it says, after that, the judgments goes forth. So once the warning comes in, the Lord tell you exactly what's going to happen, and you don't heed it, then the word of God is going to bear witness, or the Lord is going to back up his word with his actual judgments. And this will happen no matter if you like it or not. It's going to happen. And that's why the Lord had to send people to tell you and to warn you. Most of these people are going to be nobodies. And the reason why is because the person that is a somebody is not going to tell you these things, because they don't want to preach unto you doom and gloom, as you say, and they're gonna tell you the things that make you happy, and they're gonna tell you that, hey, this stuff is not gonna happen. The Lord is gonna rapture you out of here, and these things will not take place. But you got to understand that you dwell among the wicked, and your conscience already bear witness to that. and you desire the things that the things that the wicked has to offer, and your conscience prove that to you already. So the thing is that the Lord got to purge you from it, and that's the only way it's gonna happen.
My soul yearns for you in the night. In the morning my spirit longs for you. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness.
And see here in Isaiah 26, it lets us know that when the Lord's judgment come forth, when he sent forth his judgment, he said, then people will learn righteousness. He said, it says that my soul yearns for you in the night, and in the morning my spirit longs for you. So we're gonna find out why they are yearning for the Lord, and their spirit longs to see the Lord, and for the deliverance of the Lord. And this is because when the judgments come through, when the Lord began to start plaguing, and you start partaking of the bread of adversity, then you're going to desire to seek the Lord. But right now, when the Lord says something, people are not moving too quickly. And so that's the reason why the Lord had to teach you righteousness.
Some became fools through their rebellious ways and suffered affliction because of their iniquities. They loathed all food and drew near the gates of death. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress. He sent out his word and healed them. He rescued them from the grave. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them sacrifice thank offerings and tell of his works with songs of joy.
In the North Caucasus, the Volga Basin, and Ukraine. The Soviet secret police seal off Ukraine's borders. No one can get out or bring food in. A nation the size of France is strangled by hunger. In less than 2 years, 10 million people die. 7 million of them in Ukraine. 3 million of them children.
Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand. A people that you do not know will eat what your land and labor produce, and you will have nothing but cruel oppression all your days. The sights you see will drive you mad.
Some farmers burn their crops, kill their livestock, and flee to the cities. But over the next 3 years, 1 million men, women, and children are rounded up, jammed into sealed boxcars, and shipped off to the remotest corners of the Soviet Union. 112,000 trusted party members from Russia are now stationed in Ukraine. They guard the standing crops and livestock from the starving, brutally enforcing the law to protect state property.
This was a horrible law. If they saw a child picking a stalk of wheat, trying to eat those unripe grains, that was a very serious crime. This was a government order to punish anyone, even to death by execution.
Because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity, therefore in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you.
The Soviet conquerors ship out more and more grain to feed Moscow. A drought adds to Ukraine's misery. Millions die as the breadbasket of Europe experiences its first famine. Yet this is but a preview of the tragedy to follow. The survivors work as slave labor, producing raw materials for export to the West. This is the end of the line for many of the best farmers and cultural and religious leaders of Ukraine.
Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother, or the wife he loves, or his surviving children, and he will not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating. It will be all he has left because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities. The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves, and her own son or daughter, the afterbirth from her womb, and the children she bears. For in her dire need she intends to eat them secretly because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities.
We were told, "Children, it's very dangerous to go begging for food from house to house now. Terrible crimes are happening. You may not have heard, but a man who was going to the well for water, or was coming back from the well, fell and froze to death. His wife cut off pieces of his flesh and ate them."
Now then, listen, you lover of pleasure, lounging in your security and saying to yourself, "I am, and there is none besides me. I will never be a widow or suffer the loss of children." Both of these will overtake you in a moment, on a single day. Loss of children and widowhood. They will come upon you in full measure, in spite of your many sorceries and all your potent spells. You have trusted in your wickedness and have said, "No one sees me." Your wisdom and knowledge mislead you. When you say to yourself, "I am, and there is none besides me."
So when we look at all of these, and all the scriptures and stuff that we read, and all the examples, be careful when someone comes and tell you that the Lord won't destroy this place. He have a lot of people here. Because if you consider that, you might as well look at your family and take a good look at your family and just say to yourself, it's going to be a high probability that someone is not going to make it. Whether it's your kids or your spouse or even you. Because the Lord is letting you know, if you despise my word and my warning after it's been revealed and convicted in your heart, don't let me have to tell you twice. Because he guaranteed that the second time that I call on you, you're going to come running. And all the issues that you put up at first, you're going to realize that those things wasn't really any issues. And all the problems that you conjured up in your heart, you're going to realize that those problems is nothing in comparison to the problems that the Lord put on you. So be careful how men speak unto you, and make sure in all things that you seek the Lord and get understanding from him. And the Lord said he's ready to save, and he's ready to lead his people to places unknown. But you got to have faith in the Lord and give him the opportunity to do so. Don't let him have to call on you the second time.
Some sat in darkness, in utter darkness, prisoners suffering in iron chains, because they rebelled against God's commands and despised the plans of the Most High. So he subjected them to bitter labor. They stumbled, and there was no one to help. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress. He brought them out of darkness, the utter darkness, and broke away their chains. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love, and his wonderful deeds for mankind. For he breaks down gates of bronze and cuts through bars of iron.